Origin of Muslim faith. Muhammad was born in the year 1570. He was a very religious person and was an idol in his society. As soon as he began to recite the Quran and preach the truth which God revealed to him, he and a small group of followers suffered from persecution from unbelievers. The persecution grew so fierce that in the year 622, God gave them the command to immigrate. This marks the beginning of the Muslim calendar. After several years, Muhammad and his followers were able to return to Mecca, where they forgave their enemies. Before Muhammad died at age 63, the greater part of the Arabian Peninsula had become Muslim, and within a century of his death, Islam spread to Spain and the west as far as China. The Meccans were the ones who first attacked Muhammad and the Muslims, and had driven them away from their homes and properties. Muhammad was the first to attack by assaulting their religion and their family values. The Quraysh were a powerful merchant tribe of the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century. Medina was the second holiest city in Islam, surrounded by Iraq, Iran, Oman, Yemen, and the Red Sea. The Kaaba is a building in Mecca used for God worship, kind of like a church nowadays.
Origins of Muslim faith.
The starting of Islamic religion began with Muhammad.
Muhammad preached to the people around Mecca, which was the center of trade. He claimed he was the last prophet.
The citizens of Mecca were mad at Muhammad and drove Muhammad and his followers out of Mecca. I'm done here.
Muhammad and his followers grouped in Medina.
With Quran being changed, the Muslims broke into wars as Muhammad wanted more territory. Die.
Wars eventually spread to Iraq, and more people began following the Islamic Muslim faith.
This is a story about Islamic empires. The Islamic empire started with expansion, covering Spain, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, Iberia, India, and North Africa. It took 3 centuries to expand. The Islamic Empire was greatly influenced by the Greek science of Aristotle and the mathematics of India to create a very strong scholarly community. Muhammad, the prophet of the Muslim religion, instituted 5 daily prayers. This brings us to the printing press. It helps spread knowledge and religious beliefs. All of this goodness created a golden age with good trade, no political boundaries, and much intellect. Some of the great things this age gave us were parachutes, soup, cheese, and metal armor. Unfortunately, the Black Death swooped in and killed a large amount of the Islamic Empire. In the empire, the Black Plague was referred to as corruption in the air, also known as Ta'an. In the end, the Ottomans conquered them, and the empire fell.
What It Takes to Be a Muslim by Jasmine Tal and Dylan Neal. Muslims go by their religious book called a Quran. They say that it's a better version of the Bible, so they use the Quran. The Quran is 60 steps on how Muslims should live their lives. Muslims also go by the 5 pillars, the 5 pillars of Islam. The first pillar is that Allah is the one and only God, and the only God that should be cherished. The second pillar is that all Muslims should pray when they are called to, which is supposed to happen 5 times per day. The third pillar is that Muslims should give a percentage of their worth to the poor and needy, and they should bring it to their local mosque and put it in a metal box, and it is not charity because it is mandatory. And the fourth pillar is that Muslims should fast for the whole month of Ramadan for atonement, and they have to fast from drinking, eating, and sexual activity for that whole month. And the last pillar, the fifth pillar, is that every Muslim, unless they're sick, should take a pilgrimage to Mecca. Iberia, India, and North America. That's a Muslim. They're on a pilgrimage, saying that Mecca looks nice. So, and that's what it takes to be a Muslim.
The Shiites originated as a political movement. They supported Ali. The leadership stayed between the family. Imam made the community acceptable. The name Shiites came from Arabic. The Shiites supported claims of Ali's son Hassan.
Islam is the second largest denomination of Islam. They are mostly located in Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, India, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Pakistan, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. The percentage of people that are Shiites is 11%, and the number is 163,601,094. Shia Islam is based on the techniques of the Quran and the message of the Islamic prophet. Shiites believe that only God has the right to choose a representative to safeguard Islam. Quran and Sharia. The Shiites extended this belief to Muhammad's family and certain individuals among his descendants who have special spiritual and political authority over the community.
Our topic was Sunni beliefs. The Sunni religion believes in one book that is called the Quran. They only believe in one God, and they call him Allah. They believe he created everything, but it does not have multiple powers. There are over 1 billion Muslims that live in the world today, and that includes America. Women have just as much power and self-expression that we do. If anything, it's more than we have. The one food the Sunni do not allow is pork. They eat mostly rice and sometimes lamb. Sunni believe in Judgment Day and resurrection. Judgment Day shows if you are faithful or not. Resurrection is a belief after life and death, from becoming an animal into a human or vice versa.
Beliefs of the Sunni by Maggie Fields and Nick Taramagra. Sunni Muslim is the largest branch of Muslim, with 85 to 90% of all Muslims being Sunni. With 1.2 billion Muslims, there are around 850 million Sunni Muslims. Sunni believe in one God. This means that they are monotheistic. They also believe in resurrection. The Muslim version of the Bible is called the Quran. It is the sacred writings revealed from Allah, which is what they call their God, to the Prophet Muhammad during Muhammad's life at Mecca and Medina. The Sunni laws, also called the madhab, are traditions based on the founder's beliefs. There are 4 major schools of law: Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali. The worst crimes you can commit as a Muslim are unlawful intercourse, consumption of alcohol, and highway robbery. Muhammad was the prophet who founded Islam. God, or Allah, spoke to Muhammad, who then wrote down. He founded the Muslim religion in the 7th century in Arabia.
Traditional Muslim rules by Colleen Shea.
Men had a certain amount of rights over their wives after they were married, but in the end, Allah had all the power and say over everyone, and everyone had to obey him. While the women were busy with their household chores and then keeping care of the house, the men were in charge of having a job and providing money and food for the family while obtaining the house. The mother had to make sure that the kids knew what their duties were when they were older and make sure the sons understood that they were the heir to the father after he passed away. Marriage was the final step into womanhood, regardless of if they wanted it or not, and they were somewhat owned by their husband once they were married. Intercourse is mostly decided by men, and some women decided to go for abortion if it was the flawed method of contraception, but the final decision was the men.
In the Muslim religion, they believe in equality between the sexes, but men have slight more power within the family. Men are always the head of the family, and they must follow the orders of Allah. The wife must be caring of the husband's health, property, and earnings. She must raise the children properly, and only dresses up for the husband. The husband must provide food and money for the family and must assist with chores. And he also must trust his wife. And that concludes.
Traditional Muslim women are allowed to choose their own husbands and, if necessary, can have custody of her children if the woman wants to divorce. Oddly, Muslim ladies who are well educated also, on the other hand, were treated no better than children or even slaves. The Quran states that in the absence of Allah, the husbands are ordered to protect the woman. The laws throughout all 17 Islamic countries change minorly. A lot of laws state women must be housewives, and or in other Islamic countries, women exercise different degrees of rights.
Traditional Muslim Roles as Women by Kaylee Silva and Janelle Cologne. Traditional Muslims believed in Allah as their God. He believed women should have equal rights as men. Women have equal rights as men and should be able to do the same work that men do. They should be able to have jobs other than being housewives. Women are equal but are obedient. A man can lightly beat his wife legally. They are allowed an education. They can go to the University of Al-Qarawin in most religious schools.
Misunderstood. I'm not bad, I'm just misunderstood. Since 9/11, a lot of people and things have changed. A lot of Muslims have been called mean names. Even Muslims have been killed for their religion. There are a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes. They get called towel heads that are against freedom and only believe in their own religion, when a lot of them live in free countries. During 9/11, several dozen innocent Muslims were killed. Their ages ranged from as old as the 60s and as young as a non-born child, killed innocently on that day. The American government made Homeland Security so that something like 9/11 can be prevented and also protect the citizens of America and bring peace to our countries.
Muslim stereotypes. Many people think that if someone is Arab, they are Muslim. However, if someone is Arab, they are from the Middle East. and Muslims are people who follow Islam. Most people don't realize that a huge portion of American Muslims live in Washington, D.C., Michigan, Massachusetts, and Manchester, New Hampshire. Before 9/11, there were 1 million Muslims in America. After 9/11, there are now 2.8 million Muslims. Most people in America associate the Muslims they meet with the radicals from the Middle East. Those Muslims want Sharia law for all and hate America. However, 2/3 of the worldwide population of Muslims are not hostile. The 1/3 is very hostile and extreme.
It has been said that Muslims live in caves. This is nothing but a myth. Muslims live in big cities that are a lot like the cities in the U.S. They have places to stop and eat, places to stop and rest, and a lot of fun things to do. They follow a man named Muhammad. Muhammad is known as a prophet from God. He delivered the rules and regulations from a book called the Quran. They are known as: the Muslims cannot drink alcohol, they cannot eat pork, they cannot curse, and the women have to be highly conservative. The women wear something on their head known as a burqa. They are supposed to cover as much skin as possible. If you went to an Islamic city today, you may see something like this. Modern Muslims. Muhammad was the establisher of Islam and born in the big city of Makkah, Saudi Arabia. His father died before he was born, and he spent his days preaching monotheistic religion. He's also married to 12 different wives. Muslims spent their days strolling through the city's plazas and made their way to work and school. They prayed at least 5 times a day. Children go to school to learn basic subjects, along with having discussions about Islamic issues. They have strict rules and less exposure to sex, drugs, and alcohol. Their homes are warm and welcoming and friendly, and they don't allow shoes in rooms with carpets. They also don't allow dogs, and they have 2 living rooms in their home. They eat food such as fish and chicken and prepare it in religious ways.
Modern Muslims in the USA. Malcolm X started Muslim movement in the U.S. due to the White Devils. Many African Americans believed him and raised their kids as Muslims, passing from generation to generation. There was conflict in the Middle East, which brought the Muslims to the U.S. Some modern Muslims don't wear turbans or burqas. Not all Muslims are from the Middle East, they are from all around. Islam is now the 2nd largest religion in the U.S.
Modern Muslims in the USA. Muslims moved from the Middle East to the USA. The immigration drove the increase of the Muslim population. Muslims have been a part of the American society for a very long time. In 2005, nearly 96,000 Muslims became legal in the U.S., and in 2009, nearly 115,000 Muslims became legal in the U.S. In the 20th century, the Muslim population grew greatly. In 8%, the U.S. population was Muslim. There are 77 different races in the Muslim population. Most of the Muslim population is African American. Thanks for watching our video by Poem Jimenez and Samantha Evie.